Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. Today, for Destroying the Meta, we're going to be doing Denny Yu's Artifact TrapTrix Hands deck, also known as Hats. This was his May regional deck profile, and I think that, just about every Artifact deck runs the same monster base. It's nothing genuinely 100% like, oh my god, it's so different in this deck. So I felt that, an established player such as himself would be a good base to go off of. So let's get down to the deck profile. He's going to be running 1 Scythe, 3 Moral Attack, 1 Beagle Attack, 1 Dionea, triple Mary Mellow, triple Fire Hand, triple Ice Hand. Now, these are his main cards. The Moral Attacks, when they're special summoned on your opponent's turn, he gets to destroy a card on the field, or a face-up card on the field. Keep in mind that Moral Attack does not target, period. So, cards like Leo do not work against this card. If Leo worked against, if this card targeted, Leo would probably be one of the candidates to run against him, because it completely stops the Fire Hands, and it completely stops the Moral Attacks. These two guys can't exceed into anything that gets over Leo, so Leo would reign supreme, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. His Fire and Ice Hands are the stun element parts of the deck. They're practically going to get rid of all your side deck cards as well as your monster threats that would hurt him. It's just a really good aspect of this. And then these cards are going to set up his trap cards and essentially get him a free XC play if he ever needs it to be. For spells, he's going to run 3 Upstart, 3 Duality, 2 Dichotomy, triple Ignition, 1 Cyclone. That's pretty much it. He does not run Mystical Space Typhoon in the deck. Why? Because not only does he have a Mystical Space Typhoon card, the Mystical Space Typhoon card searches an artifact deck or artifact card from his deck. It's pretty dumb. It's a lot better than Mystical Space Typhoon if you're running Artifact TrapTrix Hands, or if you're running any artifacts whatsoever. And it's just a really, really good card. Next for traps is going to be Triple Sanctum, Bottomless, double TrapTrix Trap Hole Nightmare, Torrential, double Breakthrough Skill, Compulse, double Call It 100, and Solemn Warning. Now, when you practically sum this deck up, there's not really much to say about this. This is almost standard back row. His Call It 100, he runs Call It 100 because you have to keep in mind, when the artifacts are special summoned on your opponent's turn, he gets to activate their effects no matter what. They don't have to be destroyed to activate their effects. As long as they're special summoned, like through Call It 100, he still gets to activate Moral Attack, Beagle Attack, and Scythe's effect. He also gets to activate these nifty cards, and if you ever decide to break his Fire and Ice Hand chain by, let's say Dweller or something else, or let's just say you didn't have a target on the field, he can later Call It 100 it back, so he doesn't miss his so his deck doesn't lose the synergy. Next for extra deck is going to be Thunder Charger. He runs Plethalomy, I'm assuming because he goes into Pleiades a lot. Zenmayo, Tiras, Pleiades, Volcasaurus, Durandal, Crazy Box, Ragnar Zero, 101, Exciting, Daigusto Emerald, Abyss Dweller, Gaga Cowboy, and Rhapsody. This is pretty standard. There's nothing else really to say about that. If you guys want to read all of this stuff, then feel free to go ahead. This is really talking about how to destroy the deck. I really can't go into detail about every single card in here, but that is the standard extra deck. There's nothing really special about it. Now for side deck, Triple Maxi, Double Typhoon, Deep Dark Trap Hole, 2 Needle Ceiling, Full House, Double Deep Pressure, double Blackhorn, and Debunk. Now, first and foremost, I want to say, if you can get an established field on this deck, if you can already establish yourself a field presence on this deck and be able to stop the Fire Hands and the Moral Attacks, you're practically going to win. Because in that sense, or if you can get monsters on the field that say, well, these cards are destroyed, such and such and so and so, you're going to be able to gain so much advantage that Artifact TrapTrix Hands can't compete. And that's why I wanted to talk about this specific deck. No, we're not going to talk about that. Geargia, which are the prime candidate for just being able to out-advantage them. This deck completely out-advantages Artifact TrapTrix Hands, especially when you play it correctly. It doesn't matter if they hand your Fire Hand, your Geargia gear. You're just going to go into other plays. You have a plethora back row to fight with their back row, and when you look at this deck in complete, it's supposed to be meta decks. Geargia, while being a quote-unquote meta deck, doesn't run exactly like the meta. It doesn't rely on a couple of monsters to dominate the game, or a couple of spell and traps to prohibit your opponent from doing things. It does the exact opposite. It's almost like a flowing matter where your monsters and your spells work together to form some type of invincible machine. Oh, like a gear, it keeps turning. That makes sense. And that's why it just keeps dominating artifacts, because no matter what they destroy, they seem to just be able to gain some type of advantage off of it. That being said, if you guys are playing at a YCS and you don't know what to play and you have access to gear gear, and if your opponent is, or if you know everybody's playing Artifact TrapTrix hands, perfect deck to go, because it has, you can run so many different types of advantages against this deck that it's not even funny. Now let's get on to the cards that will work. If Gishki Miro Geist, if you guys are not playing this in your extra deck, I advise you to do so. Now, first and foremost, I want to point out that it's stronger than the Biz Dweller. It's 2100. Your opponent's going to have a lot harder time getting over this than the Dweller. Granted, Dweller is still an amazing card, but this one is a poor man's Dweller, let's say that. It destroys a monster, you detach one, you put it to the top of your deck. That says no completely to his hands. That's how we disable his hands in the form of just a one-card Xyz. We know it's a hand face down. Go into Miro Geist. Put it to the deck. I'm sorry, you can't activate it. It doesn't work that way. That's a really good card for that aspect. Miro Geist also does a couple of things against other decks. It gets over Lind. It gets over Lind, which is, it's just good enough to merit. You guys should be running this or trying to find room if you're not running Dweller, or if you can't afford Dweller. That's a really good thing. And even if you are running Dweller, he's still worth the spot. Next is Royal Prison. Now, Royal Prison says monsters cannot be special summoned from the graveyard. Royal Prison doesn't really do much, especially since they have the Ice Hands and the Sanctums. But if you can get Royal Prison off and sit it on the field, it says no to his artifacts and his Dianea. A lot of players are running more Dianea now. Some players even run 2 to 3. So it cuts off even more of their deck. It's just a really good card, and all you have to do is avoid the hands, and also avoid the Sanctum, and you practically are on easy street, just being able to roll past all of his cards. Keep in mind that the artifact cards themselves do not destroy your back row, they just destroy face-up cards. So you're probably going to have to dodge Sanctum as well, but it shouldn't be much of a problem. As long as you can keep it on the field long enough for you to gain enough advantage to outman the artifact deck, then you will be completely fine. Next is Breakthrough Skill. Now, I have completely dropped Fiendish Chains in, I want to say, about 90% of my decks for Breakthrough Skill, and this is why. Breakthrough Skill negates the opponent's cards, or Breakthrough Skill negates your opponent's monster's effects. Correct. Like Fiendish Chain. Granted, it still allows them attack, but on your turn, Breakthrough Skill negates moral attacks. That's just too good. Breakthrough. This deck is built on interacting with the opponent on their turn, and Breakthrough Skill interacts with them interacting with me on my turn. Not only can I negate their monster effect on their turn, I can turn around and Breakthrough Skill their summoned moral attack on my turn. I can turn around and Breakthrough Skill any of their monsters in their like Pleiades and Durandal, and I've actually did this a couple of times. He went to Ragnar Zero against me, and I was playing Fire Fist, so I was like, Breakthrough Skill, and then just kept pushing. And it's also 2 negates on top of that. So it breaks his interaction with me, allowing me to continue on with my plays and then just push forward. I really think Breakthrough Skill has emerged as a superior card this format in terms of effect negation. And as you guys should know, effect negation is key to winning games. Next is good old Abyss Dweller. Now, you have to play Abyss Dweller at the right time, at the right moment, with the right back row. But if you do, it's an auto win. Completely auto win. Nothing else about it. Mainly because, like I said, it shuts down his moral attacks. It shuts down that. It practically shuts down half of his deck, which is more than enough for us to keep pushing and keep pushing. Normally, when you're playing Dweller, Dweller is extremely good in decks that like to push really hard, such as, let's say, if you're playing Mermails and you can make Gaios Dweller, that's going to be game. Or if you're playing Girgians, you can make Dweller, Girgagan X. You can sit on that for about 2 turns. You're probably going to win that game. You also have to be pretty careful about Dweller because while it does stop the hands and the artifacts, he still does have Sanctum to special summon the monster on your side of the field and destroy your Dweller. So just be really safe about it. If you do it and they are destroying your Dwellers, just activate its effect. Don't activate Dweller's effects carelessly because you only get to 2 detaches. Next is going to be the normal DeFi, Soul Drain, and Macro, and that's because when you look at this deck, it is extremely graveyard reliant. Every single monster in his deck requires some type of graveyard manipulation. TrapTrix Marimello might not look like it at first, but Diana special summons Marimello for graveyard. So if Marimello is not in the graveyard, Diana's practically useless. It's just a 1700 beater, and nothing else to be said about that. With that being said, the deck is, like I said, extremely graveyard reliant, and there's not much else he can do when you macro defy him. That's going to pretty much sum up the game, especially if you open up with it. The last part of the trio would be Soul Drain, and Soul Drain doesn't stop as much. It's almost like a constant Dweller, but it stops enough. Being able to get get rid of the hands and the artifacts. The only thing you have to worry about is this. That should be no problem for you guys to mull over since he's only running 4 of them. With that being said, thank you guys for watching another segment of The Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.